Marvel Studios is busy with so much right now. They've got 2 Avengers movies on the docket. There's a Spider-Man 4 on the way. Today, though, we're going to focus on a couple of things with Avengers, Doomsday, and then Fantastic Four. So, on this episode of MCU Weekly, I want to start out by talking about some new promotional artwork that was put out for the Fantastic Four First Steps movie that is about to come out in a few months. It's basically coming out 2 weeks after the Superman movie, right? So Liz, I want to start with you. Looking at this artwork that they put out, it's again that's just very nostalgic in the way that it's trying to emulate that retro futuristic look of the 60s. We get a bit of a closer look at the design of the Thing, which is closer to the 2000s Fantastic Four movies than it is to like the fan four stick version with Michael B. Jordan and stuff. I like it. To me, this looks very creative.
It looks straight out of the comic.
Straight out of the comics, and even the Human Torch artwork looks amazing. What do you guys think of the two character posters? Yeah, posters, artwork, I don't know what you want to call it, but
looks
just
pretty hot.
I love it, and I hope that. Yeah, I love it, and I hope that we do get the posters. It'd be nice to hang one of those back here. So we'll see. But I love the direction for sure.
Yep. Perfect. Good stuff there. I want to switch over now. This was just a quick look at something that.
Yeah. Now we get into ranting mode.
Now we get into ranting mode because it says it there on the graphic down below. We have to talk about how Robert Downey Jr. Now this is in news because we already known this now for like a month and a half that Robert Downey Jr. or more than that actually. That RDJ is coming back to the MCU, but this time as Doctor Doom. We also recently heard that Chris Evans is returning in Avengers Doomsday. We don't know if he's going to be playing Captain America, although it looks like he's returning as Steve Rogers, but it could be from a parallel universe. Maybe he's playing old Steve Rogers. Maybe he's going to be young Steve Rogers. I don't know which version of Captain America he's going to be. Even if he is going to be Captain America, maybe he plays Agent Hydra or whatever, or something like that. So between those two announcements,
Captain Hydra, thank you.
Captain Hydra, whatever. I'm sorry. I wasn't as familiar with the Captain America lore. But there's this article on Collider today that I came across, which I thought was interesting, and they make a few good points in there, Liz.
Yeah.
So they talk about how RDJ and Chris Evans' return to the MCU feels like a betrayal to everything that Avengers Endgame basically accomplished, and giving what was a very heartfelt send-off to both Iron Man as well as Captain America in two very different ways, but nonetheless, two characters who were the foundational pillars of the MCU in the first 4 phases, and they sent them off into the sunset, and then we were supposed to be moving forward with new characters, new stories, a new lineup of Avengers, but here we are. The next Avengers movie after Endgame is going to feature both of those guys coming back and playing what feels like leading roles in that movie. So Liz, where do you land on this subject matter? Do you feel like this is a betrayal to everything they did to give those guys a big send off, and like the whole signature and the credits send off with the music, and they're signing off from the MCU, but 5 years later they're back? Like what's going on?
I will say, before reading this article, I didn't necessarily see it that way, but I did feel kind of icky when they first revealed that RDJ was going to be coming back as Doctor Doom. I was like, okay. Like, I don't have a problem with it if it makes sense, if it works in the context of the film, if I understand what they're doing, like. But at the same time, like, I was not one of those people at San Diego Comic-Con being like, oh my God, like, I wasn't losing my shit because now quite frankly, I think they were just losing their shit because they were in the same room as RDJ. I don't think it's necessarily because of the character that he's going to be playing. I think when everybody left that building and had a real think about it, they were like, oh, yeah, that's a choice. But after reading this article, I kind of reflected on it, and it's like, yeah, like, collectively as fans, and I know everybody, because heaven forbid I say anything positive about Marvel, but collectively as fans, like, we all kind of went through the various stages of grief, saying goodbye to these characters that gave us so much, and these actors that gave us so much over the 10 years. But it's kind of insulting because we've moved on. We're going in another direction. We've got new superheroes. We have new actors that have been in other projects. So why would we do this? Again, the speculation with, even I had said, if Chris Evans is coming back as Captain America, I think that's a slap in the face of Anthony Mackie. If he's coming back in the form of like a flashback or something like that, you know, because Anthony Mackie, as we know, is going to be in this film as well as Captain America. So if he comes back in the form of a flashback, then fine. If he comes back in the form of Johnny Storm, a variant of Johnny Storm, we're still fucking around with the multiverse, then okay, fine. If he comes back as Captain Hydra, even better, because it's a brand new character that we haven't seen yet. I have not felt great about either one of these decisions ever since it was announced. And now after reading this article, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It is kind of insulting, because we got what we needed from these guys. And now it's time to let somebody else come in and take on these roles. You know, and that's why Ryan Reynolds has that famous joke in Deadpool and Wolverine, you know, until you're 90, because that seems to be what Marvel has decided to do these days. I don't necessarily agree with it. Again, I love both actors. And again, as long as it makes sense for the context of the film, for the MCU, if it makes sense, that's one thing. But frankly, I don't want to see these guys for another 5 years. I really don't. I'd much rather see them in other films and other projects. I think they need to move on at this point.
Yeah, like Red 2 and Oppenheimer 2, Godzilla comes back.
Yeah, because that's basically what you're saying is Avengers Doomsday is going to be the Red 2 of this franchise. Is that what's going to happen?
I mean, it's probably going to be dog shit, but you know, it's
I mean, look,
what it is.
There is a counter argument that, hey, look, these are the two biggest characters. They are the pillars of this franchise. So for them to be doing a Doomsday movie, especially one that leads into a Secret Wars movie, of course they're going to be back. My problem isn't so much with that. It's the idea that you're bringing them and you're then putting them front and center again, rather than moving on with new characters that, look, people are still wondering, where the heck is that Shang-Chi sequel? Like, is it still happening? I mean, what's going on with we know that Moon Knight is probably gonna go into a season 2 that is now being turned into a movie. But what happened to the Iron Wars, or was it Armor Wars project that was meant to be a Disney Plus show and then turned into a movie?
But also to that point, Dan, and thank you, because I forgot to bring that up as well. There are 4 actors playing the characters of the Fantastic. Like, we're not talking about Pedro. We're not like, it's a Fantastic Four movie. It's not a Captain America movie. It's not a Doctor Doom movie. It's a Fantastic Four movie. So unfortunately, these guys are also taking the attention away of the main actors. And when people sit down in the theater, they're going to go, how come we only got 10 minutes of Chris Evans? Or how come we only got a half an hour total of RDJ?
It buries the other characters down the marquee. Yeah.
Right, because it's not about them. So it is pretty. And again, I want to be supportive, because I do love what they deliver, but it's just I've seen these guys. I've lived with them for 10 years. I loved them for 10 years. I will support. I saw Endgame in theaters 10 fucking times, guys. Okay? Like that's over 30
a lot of time.
hours of devotion from start to finish. Okay? Like, I love them. But I don't need them to keep showing up in projects. The only thing that would make sense, honestly, is Deadpool. That would only make Ryan Reynolds randomly popping his head into different projects is the only thing that makes sense right now, the way things are going. So again, if they do it in a way that makes sense, fine. But I don't want to see these guys for the next 5-6 years. I really like let this be a one-off, and then we need to move on already.
Yeah. I mean, and then again, the point we were trying to make, that is basically Avengers Infinity War was a movie that focused on like bringing all the big characters from the previous phases together. Then Avengers Endgame ended up being another movie of where they focused on the core 6 from the OG line of the Avengers. And then they ended up signing off by the end, going off into the distance in their own ways. Hawkeye retired for the 4th time. Before unretiring for his TV show and then retiring again. Captain America went to the past and had his dance with Peggy. Speaking of which, Agent Carter is back in Avengers Doomsday as well, apparently. so she's not done yet.
That's all right. We didn't get enough of her. That's fine.
That her
That's
character,
okay.
I get it, but like it's just I'm wondering
we're gonna
how she
resurrect
fits into
Chadwick
the picture.
Boseman to put him in Avengers
Oh,
Doomsday.
come on, John. That's not nice.
But
honestly, at this point, it's just that's where the point that Marvel's gonna get to. Like, goddamn.
It just look. We know that they're gonna go into the world of X-Men characters after Secret Wars, and that's kind of the next big phase of Marvel. But it does make you wonder. This is the first Avengers movie since Endgame, and who's in the lunchbox? Like, where are the Avengers? I mean, I know they don't need to be an official team, and we keep seeing in the trailers for Captain America: Brave New World that Thunderbolt Ross, President Ross wants, Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, to assemble the new event or to reassemble the Avengers. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, so who are the new Avengers? Are we gonna bring Bruce Banner back? Who, I mean, he's got a son now. I guess
Shang-Chi is supposed to be a member of the Avengers. When are we getting? Yeah.
I mean, where's Scarlet Witch? I mean, she looks like she's gone. I mean, Doctor Strange is off into the multiverse of madness, still trying to close up all the different, what do they call them, incursions. So I mean, but having said that, they introduced a whole. I mean, Miss Marvel, of course. You've got Captain Marvel. You've got what's the other, Photon? Like you've Photon is stuck in a different X-Men timeline, so like who knows where she is. Speaking of the multiverse of madness, there's all kinds of weird things happening, but you do wonder. Of all these new heroes they've introduced, Moon Knight, has got his own TV show I talked about earlier.
Yeah, we got to bring the Eternals into the fold somehow. Yeah.
Ironheart is getting a new TV show. There's a Wonder Man TV show coming. Vision is still around, even though he's not the Vision that we knew, or the Vision that we knew after the Vision that we knew. He's just a different Vision entirely. The third or fourth version of Vision.
The ship of Theseus, as we all know.
The ship of Theseus, exactly. But like of all these characters, none of them are getting the spotlight. Instead, we're just gonna get Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. back in the headline.
Well, and honestly, to me, that shows that there's definitely a chink in the armor. They're afraid of something. They're worried.
I mean, it's a little short-sighted.
Is it in response to James going to DC and all the attention that he's been getting and all the new projects that he's pumping out? Is that what they're doing? Oh, hey, look over here, Chris Evans is back. Like, I don't understand it. I mean, yes, again, it's nice for Chris Evans. It's nice for RDJ. Make that money, boys. I definitely don't discourage that from anybody, but from a fan standpoint, been there, done that, babe. And like I said, it completely takes away from the four actors who are comprising the Fantastic Four, and that's not fair. At the end of the day, we should be talking about them. Yeah. We should be interviewing them. We should be asking what they've got going on. So already we keep talking about being constantly disappointed with Fantastic Four projects. Already they're disappointing us, and we haven't even seen a goddamn trailer yet.
Yeah, and again, the literally what you just said. A lot of them, by the way, drive safe.
Don't be fucking texting and driving, Jake Kelly. Goddamn. Don't be like Dan.
Seriously.
Okay, thank you. Kevin in the chat.
I'm just trying to protect people's safety. That's all.
That's right. Safety first, gang. Safety first.
It's fair.
Don't be. I know it's like easy, like maybe an audio book. Don't be like having a visual thing plus audio when you're driving. Just PSA from Also Curious. Anyway.
By the way, Kevin Davis saying Marvel Studios have nothing left to prove to nobody. They already hit their peak. Well, here's the thing.
That's fair.
It's fair, but at the same time, Hollywood is all about money. What have you.
They also want money.
It's a business. You can't just keep. You can't keep coasting off your past success because Hollywood is all about
spend money to make money. That's what they do. Yeah.
Hollywood is all about what have you done for me lately, and Marvel has really not done a lot for. I mean, outside of Deadpool and Wolverine. They've had a lot of misses more so than hits. By the way, guys, if you are watching, we see a lot more of you watching than the like button has been, so we need more likes, basically. Hit the like button. It definitely helps us out.
Give us the likes. Give us the likes.
But we have Ron in the chat, and he said, you guys are totally right having RDJ, Chris Evans coming back, taking attention away from the new heroes, which is not a wise move if Marvel wants to push these characters.
It's a shame. It's not fair to them.
Because here's the thing. In the here and the now, like Kevin said in the chat, Doomsday and Secret Wars are going to make $2 billion each, most likely. But you know what they're also not going to do? They're probably not going to end up promoting all these new characters that were introduced as much as they should have, because those characters are going to get pushed aside for all the more well-known characters from the previous phases, like Star-Lord, like, RDJ as Doctor Doom, and maybe even coming back as Iron Man and fighting himself as Doctor Doom, and Chris Evans, Captain America, coming in and totally stepping on, Falcon as the new Captain America.
It would make sense if these actors were completely unknown and they were a little nervous about it, kind of like with Tom Holland. Like, it would make sense if they were just nervous on how people were going to respond to these complete unknowns. But it's Pedro, for Christ's sake. Like, they don't have anybody that we haven't heard of before, we haven't seen in other things.
I mean, we got Pedro Pascal's America's sweetheart.
He's America's daddy. It's not fair, really, because they could get
four of them.
They could get all the publicity. They could still be could still be in the headlines just on those actors alone. So why are they pivoting away from them?
Because it's like, look at that. Like, Pedro Pascal, that dude is in fucking everything. Like, yeah, America's Sweetheart, America's Daddy, America's DILF, whatever you want to say. Vanessa Kirby was in, Golden Globe and Emmy-winning television series for a season or two.
She's in Mission Impossible.
She was in the Mission Impossible franchise. Joseph Quinn
was
in two big hits this year.
Right.
And Eben Moss-Bachrach was in one of the most fucking didn't it, like, The Bear break records for Emmy nominations or some shit?
Yeah.
How? And then you also have Paul Walter Hauser, who has an unknown role, probably Mole Man, also in it, maybe Herbie. And
he's a lovely man.
And he's been in a whole bunch of shit, like Cobra Kai and Richard Jewell.
He was nominated for a fucking Oscar, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, so it's like, and the director doesn't have much. It's like he did like WandaVision and shit like that. But like, you have these cast members. I understand they want to build the suspense, but it's like, it's hard to do that, one, when Marvel has been kind of failing, and two, this is Fantastic Four. We've seen this 4 other times, all of which failed. Can you give us a little something to when us a bit
that's what I'm saying.
This will be a decent movie, especially when Superman finished filming on the day you guys started filming.
Right. But also, why wouldn't they want to keep this shit as a surprise? Like, don't say a fucking word about it and then have them either pop up in the trailer, or don't say shit and have people find out
because they want
Deadpool
the
and
money.
They were really good about hiding most of the cameos, and it was great, and it paid off for them. I just don't understand the decision making on their part.
That in this case, it's Avengers. They got to sell it more. Yeah, No Way Home is another thing, but at least with this, or Deadpool and Wolverine,
I agree.
I think it's just they're so gung ho on making a bill. Because to be fair, yes, Deadpool and Wolverine had the cameos, but at the end of the day, we know what really fucking sold that movie, and that was fucking Hugh Jackman as fucking Wolverine. That's what made that movie over $1 billion. Not fucking Wesley Snipes and Jennifer fucking Garner coming back as Elektra.
First of all, their scenes are great. Their scenes are great. So,
but don't get me wrong, I love Marvel's daddy. Don't get me wrong. That's Wesley Snipes is goated, but come on. Jennifer Gardner and then Gambit, that apparently everyone hates now, even though everyone was clamoring for Channing Tatum as Gambit for years, but whatever. And
who was? Absolutely not.
Tons of people were, but that's beside
you're
the
all
point.
Dumb. Shame on you.
Anyway, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The Deadpool and Wolverine got sold by the Wolverine part. No Way Home had fucking, Doc Ock and Electro and all these other motherfuckers from the other movies come back. So they're using that part. They're using that part to sell this movie. Oh, well, we got Chris Evans coming back. Well, we got, Tony Stark coming back. Well, not Tony Stark, but him as RDJ as Dr. Doom. So it's they're and possibly Scarlett Johansson coming back. So you have all these people coming back, and that's what's selling the movie, much like Hugh Jackman and Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe.
Again, I just feel like
coming back for those movies.
It's Marvel, and it's not Madam Web Marvel. It's Fantastic Four. It is still very highly anticipated. Just like Superman, we're hoping that they do it right this time. We're hoping that we don't get another disappointing Fantastic Four. So that's what they should be focusing on with this marketing. But for some reason, they just it's a real shame. It really is. But again, to their point in the chat, if the writing is good, which sometimes it is, if it makes sense in the context of the film, again, we might get Chris Evans for all of 30 seconds. We really don't know what he's coming back and what his
they haven't really
is
said
in the
exactly
production.
the scale of the role, right?
Right. So like the Watcher said, it's as long as the writing is good and it makes sense in the context, that's fine. But again, they're taking away from the other actors in the film, and I think that's the biggest issue that I have right now, for sure.
Exactly. I mean, and look, Kevin pointing out, and rightfully so, that the Multiverse of Madness was almost $1 billion movie. Wakanda Forever made almost $1 billion. Thor: Love and Thunder, despite the fact that it wasn't well received, made I think it was $700 million, which was less than the Thor Ragnarok did. But I mean, it made money. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made over $800 million. Shang-Chi came out during the pandemic and still made like $300-400 million. So yeah, I mean, and to the Watcher's point, Marvel will pretty much do a soft reboot after Secret Wars. We don't know if that means we're gonna get a new Iron Man, a new Captain America. I mean, we have a new Captain America, so I don't know if they're gonna just bring back Steve Rogers or bring back another Tony Stark necessarily. But hey, despite the fact that Marvel has had those box office successes in recent years, the general consensus is that their best work is still behind them in terms of the peak of Phase 3 and Phase 4. So doing member-berry things like bringing back Tony Stark, or not Tony Stark, but bringing back RDJ as Doctor Doom, bringing back Chris Evans as whichever character he plays. Yeah, it's just to me it would be okay if they hadn't already been like coasting off of that kind of stuff with all the cameos in Multiverse of Madness, all the X-Men stuff in Deadpool and Wolverine, and all the Spider-Man coming together in Spider-Man No Way Home. It just seems like the multiverse has been an opportunity for them to be like nostalgia. Let's bring back all, and I get it. Marvel is bringing all these different characters from the different studios under one umbrella and all the different variations and saying, okay, the Wesley Snipes blade is now canon to the MCU lore through the multiverse. I get all of that stuff, but at the same time, like you said, like the core issue here is we need to put the focus on some of the new characters so that we're not relying so heavily on RDJ and Chris Evans. They're back now, and they might stick around for a few movies, but like you can't rely on them for another 10 years. Like they're not going to be the ones to build the MCU for the next decade, right?
So idea, you still have other characters that are still, there that are from the old regime, so you can have a mix of old and new. Like you still have Thor. Yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder was like a crime against humanity, but at least he's there. He's still canon. He's not dead yet. So you have that. And then on top of the fact, you have all these other, you still have Hulk. Yeah, he sucks, but he's still there. Hawkeye is like kind of on the cusp of retirement, but like kind of not. But you still have some of those characters. You still have some of them. So like, why not just mix it up a little bit? Okay, cool. We have Chris Hemsworth, but we also have Anthony Mackie. Hey, we have Mark Ruffalo, but we also have Monica Rambeau,
CGI son, and She-Hulk.
there's like a give and take. Like have both and give them equal footing, and then finally move on to the new characters once they get their spot in the sun. And they're finally doing that for Captain America 4, which is unfortunate because there was, it's been a disaster from day one, but which I feel bad for because again, I like Anthony Mackie.
Hopefully the movie
be good, but
it's still good. But yeah.
So have the mix. This is what I feel like Disney does not understand the mix. They did this with Star Wars and fucked them over, and they're doing it with Marvel. Just don't focus solely on the new. Don't focus solely on the old. Have some sort of mix of the characters you have left, or else you're going to fuck yourself over. So why, Disney? You're a giant. Why are you making the dumbest fucking decisions imaginable? It just doesn't make sense to me. I know it's money, but it's like, I feel like you could still make your money at, like, you still have these insane fans that will sacrifice their firstborn child for you. Like, fucking feed into that network. Like, I just, like, there is the money aspect. I understand the money. That's where it talks. But, like, I feel like you can make still shit tons of money without doing all of this shit. I don't know. Maybe
I get that. I mean, look, the Russo brothers came to Kevin Feige and said, look, you guys are retooling your plan for these Avengers movies. Here's an idea that we have. And obviously it involves bringing back some of these characters that they directed in all those Avengers movies that made like a Marvel and Disney like $4 billion between Infinity War and Endgame. And so they're going back to the well, and I understand that. I think we all agree on the idea that they should try to use these characters to now set up the future of the MCU rather than bringing them back and being like, okay, we're going to rely on them one more time or 5 more times. Like, it's okay to bring them back and have them set up the future of the MCU, but let's just hope that we don't get to now all of a sudden have Doctor Doom be around with RDJ playing the character for 5 movies or something like that. That's not what we want to do here. And by the way, just really quickly to all of those, in the chat now talking about the Batman news, we did spend like a good, it feels like an hour talking about the Batman getting delayed, and the Brave and the Bold, Andy Muschietti potentially moving on to direct another movie before that. So to Yash, to Ron, to anybody who's stopping by a little bit late, you can be kind of rewind because we talked about that at length and all the nuances of it. But talking about the Avengers Doomsday situation, this article in Collider definitely pointed out, I think, some really good points about what they're doing now feels a little short-sighted, and while it will probably make them billions of dollars, what you don't want to have happen is that, it creates a mess for the MCU that now they have to kind of figure out for the next 10 years of the MCU. So they just have to, it's sort of like in professional wrestling. You go out on the mat, an old wrestler usually loses to a young wrestler on his last match, so that way the new young person now goes over as the new popular hot thing for the next 10 years. I feel like that's what needs to happen here, and hopefully that's what RDJ playing Doctor Doom is meant to do, is meant to sort of help one of the newer characters take off, like maybe the Fantastic Four. Obviously that would make a lot of sense. And then Chris Evans coming back hopefully helps to elevate Anthony Mackie's Captain America rather than push him down the ladder a little bit. So we do hope that that's the direction they're going in. But of course, as always, guys, if you have some more to add to that conversation, drop down in the comments down below. Let us know, and we'd love to hear from you. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you know when we go live. We are here 5 days a week talking about DC and all things from the world of movies. And of course, hit that notification bell while you're at it.